Hey everyone, happy Friday. Welcome to a new episode of the Robles Review. Today I have someone who is a near and dear to me, my friend Dhruvin. Uh, Dhruvin, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Doing good. Angel, how are you, man?
Doing very well. So Dhruvin, we work with the same firm, and you are actually expanding your own agency. I see you're doing really well. The reason why I really wanted you to be on the podcast is because you have, in my opinion, and I'm sure in the opinion of most people, what is considered the all-American story. Your story, I believe, falls under what most people see as the American story. You came here from another country. You started from the bottom, and now you're killing it, man. You're killing it, especially for your age. So go ahead and tell the audience about yourself. I'll let you do it. You'll explain yourself better than I can.
Well, I appreciate you having me on here, and it is a privilege. I don't take the opportunities or the the things that are given to me for granted. I think a lot of times when I look back, that's one of the biggest things that I would say have contributed to my success in World Financial Group or in our industry altogether. But a little bit about myself: I was born and raised in a state in a state called Gujarat in India, and I grew up. And my whole goal when I was growing up was to become a doctor. So I actually came to United States to study medicine. And when I was coming here, I got accepted to a lot of good universities, a lot of Ivy League universities, but I didn't get a chance to go to any of them because the only school that gave me a scholarship, a full ride scholarship, was Fresno State. And I had no idea that California State University Fresno was in Fresno, or let alone anything about Fresno. But I decided to come to Fresno State because that was the full ride that I had, and not knowing that Fresno is even hotter than India. You'd be surprised. I was like, man, I thought India was hot, let alone then I came to Fresno. I was like, man, this is crazy. This is even worse. So that's how I got into United States. I was actually an exchange student. I was on a student visa when I first got here. I was just here to go to school. And when I was going to school, I was so dead on set to become a medical doctor. I wanted to be an interventional cardiologist. And, a lot of that had to do with my parents and how they raised me, and how I picked my studying schedule while I was still in school. So that was the path that I was going. That was to originally become a doctor. So going from there to now being in finance and running an agency, running a company is a whole different story. I look back and I'm also thinking the same thing. I was like, man, you can't underestimate what the possibilities are, especially in a country like United States. So that's how I got involved in the financial industry, and I'll tell you a little bit more. But does that kind of give you an idea for where I'm from and what I wanted to do originally?
Yeah, of course, man. So you and I met. I am newer than you in our firm. So I remember being a brand new associate, a brand new agent, and you were probably the kindest guy in the office. You were just the nicest guy, and you were fairly new. I was brand new. You were fairly new. So I'm like, okay, cool. Someone else who just started. I'm brand new. You introduced me to yourself, and I asked you, how long have you been doing this? And have you been in the financial industry, especially within our firm? And I think at that time, what do you think when I started? You were in maybe a year. You think you were maybe in a year?
Yeah, I was probably a year, 3, 4 months in the business at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, okay, cool. And you had a lot of really good things going on, and you were telling me where you're from. The struggles that you went through as a most people who are college students are pretty broke.
Yeah.
But you, not only were you a broke college student, you also were new to this country.
Yes.
You told me that just to get your license, just to get registered with our firm and to earn your license, at first wasn't there first some
Yeah.
difficult, some hoops you had to go through? Let's talk about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, absolutely. When I first came to the United States, and I was really excited. I was already starting to go to school, but very soon, very quickly, I realized that when you convert Indian rupees, the currency we use in India, into US dollars, it got really expensive. And on top of that, everything that I had didn't cover it. Like everything that I was getting wasn't enough. So I was thinking, man, am I gonna have to start asking money from my parents, or am I gonna have to start working somewhere as a job? And I was, I'm a pretty self-sufficient person. I didn't come to a different country to just go back and ask money from my parents. So I thought, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what most adults would do. I'm going to go find myself a job. And that's what I started doing. I started going into the job market. I was looking for just an opportunity. That I didn't really have anything set on mind. Just like every other college student, I was like, as long as it pays the bills, gives me some extra money where I could, just live comfortably, that would be fine, because I was focused on my degree. And very soon I realized that there is one thing that is very common to every American, but not very common to anybody that comes from a different country. And that one thing basically dictates your entire career. That one thing is basically your identity here in the United States. And I'm talking about a social security card, or your social security number. So when I first got to the United States, I was applying for all these jobs, and every time I would interview, they're like, hey, so we like you, we want to work with you. What's your citizenship, or what's your citizenship status? There's always a background question that they ask you. Are you legally able to work in the United States? And every single time my answer was no, because I was like, well, I don't know. I wouldn't, I don't know. So, and that's how I got involved in this business too. One of the junior brokers at that time, his name was Charlie. He connected me with one of the business clubs I was a part of at Fresno State, and he messaged me on Facebook. And the crazy part is you can never say the wrong thing to the right person. He texted me on Facebook saying, hey man, I hope you remember me. And I was like, no, I don't remember you. Who are you? And he's like, oh, we met at this club at the business club at Fresno State. I was like, sure, what's going on? And he was like, me and my boy Danny, you obviously know Daniel. We're gonna mention him a couple of times. This was his exact text message. He said, me and my boy Danny are opening up a financial office. You should come check it out. I was like, sure. So I showed up. At that time, I moved to the United States when I was 17. So I had just turned 18 at the time. I wanted to get started. I came to the office. I saw the opportunity. I saw the American dream. And the person that was training, or the person that was talking about an opportunity, they said, hey, look, your color, your age, your gender, and your ethnicity has nothing to do with your success in this kind of opportunity. And I got really excited, and I was like, you know what? This is the kind of opportunity I've been looking for all my life. So I was sitting down with Daniel, who also happens to be your brother-in-law, which is
Yeah,
crazy. It's a small world. So
yeah,
I was sitting down, and he was like, hey, it's this much to get a license. You got to take care of your own licensing. I was like, sure, no problem. Here's cash. And he's like, oh, we don't take cash. You got to go through the process. I was like, okay, let's do it. And I was filling out the form. At that time, it was a paper one. Now it's online. And it was basically like a job application I was filling out. And there was this one box that was empty. And Daniel's like, hey, man, we need your social security. And I was so excited that I told him I don't have a social security. And Danny's like, I don't think you can work with us. And I was like, why not? He's like, well, you need your social security in order to pass a background check, to get a license, and all of those good things. So very quickly, I realized next day after going and talking to my school counselor that I cannot get a social security until a certain amount of time in the United States. At that time, it was almost 2 years. There's a whole big process behind me getting a social security that I'm not going to go into. Otherwise, we're just going to be sitting here, and this is going to turn into an immigration changing status video instead of just a podcast. So, all in all, to make the long story short, I had to wait 2 years to get my social security from the USCIS, and once I got my social security, that's the same day I got involved in the business. Because what had happened in the 2 years, I had realized a lot of things. I realized two things about the United States. Number one, a lot of people are not grateful and are not taking advantage of the opportunities that are given to them. And number two, most people that are very complacent. They're
yeah,
very happy of where they are, just because as bad as you think that you have it here in the United States, it's not really that bad.
yeah.
Like you still have 100 times better than the third world countries, and I've lived in one. I've seen what happens when there's a lack of opportunity. I come from a country where there's 1.3 billion people, and the United States population is 336 million people, and it's a 7 times bigger country here in the United States versus India being 7 times smaller with a billion more people. So the scaling opportunities are very low. And I've seen people with MBAs drive cabs or be hawkers that are, just selling stuff, or they're street vendors, and these people have MBAs from the best colleges in the world. And I've never heard about a concept of minimum wage. So when I looked at the United States economy and I was looking at, the economy that I came from, I was thinking, man, minimum wage was never even an option back in India. You either got paid profits, that's you're a business owner or you're self-employed, or you got paid a salary.
Yeah.
Those are the only two ways for you to get paid. Minimum wage was never an option back in India. So when I came here and I saw that no matter the hardest working person and the the least working person at all are going to get paid the same amount of money, I was like, I would not want to work in a system like that. I would probably want to work on a system that pays me on profits or pays me on commission or pays me for my hard work. That's why I wanted to choose going into entrepreneurship, because I had seen the kind of difference it would do, and I know the kind of person I am. And it's just human nature. If you could get by just doing the minimum, that's all you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Like nobody really starts going after it until your back's against the wall or you really need to. Like people want to do a lot of things, but they only do the things that they need to. And I knew my nature would be the same way. So I wanted to put myself in a position where I was uncomfortable. I wanted to do something that I hadn't done. And the opportunity was absolutely amazing. So funny story, in that 2 years when I didn't have a social security, I did every single job that you could imagine under the table. So don't, now I'm good, but I can say this openly on internet. So I was mowing people's lawns. I was delivering stuff on my longboard. I was doing people's homeworks and getting paid. I was tutoring people's kid on math. Imagine I'm Indian. I'm very good at math. I'm very smart at what I do. So I was like, you know what? Let me use my stereotype in my favor. So I started doing people's homeworks and tutoring people's kids under the table. I even had a roommate who was working at Applebee's and Denny's. He was making $10 an hour at both the places, and he had 2 jobs. And I was like, hey, how would you like to make $15 an hour? And he's like, how would I do that? I was like, well, if you let me go into Denny's as you can make the $5 an hour, and I'll keep the other 5. That way, in 1 hour, you'll make $15 an hour. But that way, I can at least take care of myself and not worry about just eating dining hall food every single day, because I don't have extra money to know where my next meal is coming from if I don't make it to the dining hall. So things were pretty bad, but I was having fun. I was 18, 19. I didn't really think much of it. So once I was the day I showed up to Denny's, in 4 hours I got fired, because I didn't think America I didn't compute that I don't look Caucasian and the name badge that I'm wearing is Blake. That was my roommate's name. So they were like, Indian Blake? Yeah, right, sure. You're not Blake. You need to get out before we call the cops. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So that's what ended up happening. But I feel like I always had an entrepreneurship spirit. My mentality was always, let's do whatever it takes as long as it's ethical, legal, and moral. I want to do whatever it would take for me to do well here. And in that 2 years, Daniel was the broker that was training me, your brother-in-law. So every 3 to 6 months after I had met him the first time and he told me I don't have a social security, I would call him and I would follow up with him for an opportunity. Usually in our industry, it's the opposite way. The recruiters, they call you and they're always trying to recruit you. I was the opposite. I was the one weird person in the list that kept calling the recruiter. I was like, hey, I just got my green card. Can I work now? He's like, no, we need your social security. 6 months later, hey, I just got my work permit. Can I work now? He's like, no, we need your social security. And finally, when I called him after almost a year and a half, he just didn't really believe me. He was like, wait, what do you mean you got your social security? I was like, yeah, I just got my social security card in the mail. And he's like, okay, send me the picture back and forth, and then send me your debit card back and forth, send me your driver's license back and forth, and I'll get you rolled in. I'll give you your study material. I'll book your test. I'll book your licensing exam. And that's how I got involved in the business. So the first day I got my social security, since I was waiting for it and I was praying for it in the last 2 years, I was just praying. I was like, God, if I ever get a chance to get a social security, I promise I'll never take it for granted. Even in my affirmations right now, the first thing I'm grateful for outside of my family's health and my health is that, hey, I have an opportunity. So it keeps me grounded. It keeps me more down to earth, to where I know what it's like not to have a social security. And it seems so small to everybody that was born and raised here. Oh, social security. Oh, we have it. But to me, it was a really big thing because that allowed me to have my own company now,
Yeah.
and I'm running a company, and we have I have some employees now too that are getting paid because I have this opportunity. I'm able to help a lot of people, so it was a very big blessing. And honestly, I think if I was born and raised here and I was given a social security from the get go, I would probably take it for granted as well. So that was my biggest thing, to not to take an opportunity for granted. But that was the least of my problems once I got into business. Then I realized, oh wow, this is me building a business. So let alone all the problems that come with entrepreneurship of being broke, not having a capital. I was just happy that I got my social security, but that was literally just a beginning point of all the things I had to start overcoming. But that was the one thing I think that I was really happy about, that I was over with.
Wow. Wow. If that's not worth making a movie, I don't know what is. I think that if we made a movie just based off of that, it would be better than The Pursuit of Happiness, which I love, by the way.
I
Uh,
love that movie, and
yeah,
thank you for saying that. That's a big thing coming from you. I
I'm,
appreciate it.
man, I mean it. Dude, we're not just colleagues, man. Like, you're my friend. I remember the first time where I really got to know you. It was actually at Danny, who, like you mentioned, was our broker when you started, and my current brother-in-law. It was at his grandparents' house, and we were all
Yeah,
playing football in the
flag
backyard.
football. I remember that. Yeah, that was
Yeah, that was
awesome.
the first time I like really got to know you and some of the other agents in our firm, and all genuine, down to earth people. I remember I would see you guys at the office, like you know, suit and tie and tailored up, and then I finally got to see everybody like in shorts, tank top, flip flops, hanging out, and I'm like, man, these are some really really great people, and that's what sold me. That's what made me want to get started. I'm so happy. I told everyone I'm a multiple business entrepreneur, but this is my center career. I love what we do. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the services that we offer and why they're important. Financial literacy. Let's focus on financial literacy just for a little bit, because I
Yeah.
think it's something that's super important. What would you like to say about financial literacy?
So just this takes me back to when I was first moving here. When I was first moving to the United States, my parents were like, "Dhruvin, you're moving to one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and you should be really excited about the opportunities." And Angel, to be honest, I really was excited until I got here and I saw that 7 out of 10 people in the wealthiest country were living paycheck to paycheck. To me, I was thinking, how's that possible in the wealthiest country? That's 7 out of 10, which is 70% of the population. 7 out of 10 people that we know, we're family members with, we're friends with, are living paycheck to paycheck till this day. And it came down to literacy. I found out that out of the 50 states, only five states give out financial education. California was not one of them. Texas was not one of them. So the information that people need is not even available in schools. And as bad as that sounds, there's also an opportunity in that. So I was looking at the opportunity and I was looking at the need, and the need way more outweighs what's going on in the marketplace right now. Like, if you look at the entire population of 330 million people in US, out of them only 15 to 20 million people have ever even sat down with a financial professional. That means the other 310 million, other 320 million have never even had an opportunity, let alone get a chance to learn from a financial professional. And most people think, when it comes to finances, what they don't know isn't going to hurt them. That's not true. If tomorrow you're like, hey, for the next 10 years, I'm not going to pay my taxes, I hope it doesn't affect me. It's not, it is going to affect you. So it's
Yeah,
the same thing when it comes to finances. People are living in ignorance, just not knowing, and they don't even know that they have a problem until we get a chance to sit down with them. So our job, I love what our firm stands for, which is no family left behind. We don't discriminate. I don't care if you have $10 or $10 million. I'm going to help you save. I have clients that come and save $100 into college plans for their kids, for their own retirement. Versus I also have clients that save $1 million a year into plans that I help them out with. So it I like the fact that we can help whoever we want to, and how the company's structured, and that it's based on education, and I think education is the key, especially when it comes to finances. So that's why I'm so passionate about what we do. But It's just it's like any game, right? If when you and me were playing flag football, it was actually one of my first times playing football. So guess what? If I don't know the rules, there's no way my team would win. It's
Yeah.
the same thing. If your family doesn't know the rules of money, there is no chance of you even winning. Like you can't just wing your way to financial freedom. Like that's not gonna happen. And if it does sometimes ever happen, you're gonna lose it all.
Yeah.
And we've seen that example multiple times. We see people winning lotteries. We see people getting big NFL contracts. We see people getting money and not knowing what to do with it, and they just lose it all, and they have nothing to show for it for the next generation. And that to me is as crazy as somebody having a health problem that they pass down to the next generation. It's a generational curse, and if we could do something to attack or eradicate that awareness, not having awareness about their financials, or people not knowing what to do, then that could make a big difference. Even if they just know the information and they never do anything with it, I think they can make better choices. So it just
Yep.
comes down to choices. People just don't know that they have choices. Like last weekend, I was with the United States military. I actually went down to Westlaco to the border, and we were helping out a lot of the soldiers in the National Guard, and we were hosting financial seminars for them. And literally, we had such a good response. Each and every one of them on their feedback put, "I wish I knew this 5 years ago. I wish I knew this 10 years ago." And that's the same response I've got every time I sat down with somebody that's in their 60s, that I wish I knew this information when I was in my 30s or 40s, or I wish I would have done something when I was in my 20s. A lot of people, they get some kind of retirement from their company, but they have no idea what's going on with it. They put their money in places where they have zero understanding. And I tell everybody, like, if you're anything like myself, I wouldn't want to put my money where I don't understand what's happening with it. So, when most people get their statements for their retirement account for their kids' college fund, they look at the statement, and they're looking at the statement and they're looking at it really hard for 15 minutes, and then they just throw it away because they didn't really understand what's going on. And they're like crossing their fingers saying that, "Hey, I hope my company takes care of me."
Yep.
Well, I hate to break it to you, hope is not a very good financial strategy. It just really isn't. So that's what drove me to the financial industry, and also the opportunity of building a business and the way the platform's set up. So yeah, I think I love being a part of an organization that stands for No Family Left Behind. I love having an organization or running a company that stands for education and awareness versus sales and marketing and distribution, right? So it's different ways that people can look at it, but we've been very successful at what we do because of the way we do it. So that's what I would have to say.
Yeah, yeah. I agree 100%. You just made a really great point right now. A really good segue. I want to talk a little bit about you. You just opened up your own agency this year, right? Was it this
Yeah.
year? So
Yeah,
you
this year.
finally opened up your own agency, and I'm so proud of you, man. I'm really proud of you. This is your first year. I can't wait to see what it looks like in 10, 15, 20 years. You're probably going to be, on Wall Street. You're going to have, your name's going to be on a huge building. Same for myself.
Absolutely.
We're in the same industry,
Exactly.
but we don't work against each other. So
We were with each other.
I definitely see you and I having very successful agencies all across the country one day. And the date for this video, it's what's today? It's 2020. It's August 14 to 2020. I can't wait to look back at this video in 10 years. I guarantee that you and I are going to have agencies with multiple offices spread out across the entire country. I can't wait to see it.
Absolutely. Angel, when you mentioned the date today's date is actually very special for me.
What is it?
August 14, 2020. Today marks the 6 years of me being in the United States. So 6 years ago in 2014, 14th of August is the day I landed in Los Angeles from India. So today completes 6 years of me being in US, and it's a little surreal for me too. So
that's amazing. That's you didn't tell me that when I called you and I set this up.
I didn't realize it. I just used, when you said the date.
Yeah,
I just had a realization about that, so I'm sharing that with you.
No way. Yeah. So there you go. You've come a very long way. So like I was saying right now, you opened up your agency very recently this year. You started off in was it San Jose or Modesto? Where did you start off first?
So I started off actually in Visalia. I used to have my house in Visalia, and I was still going to college there, and I was doing this business part time. So I started off when I was 19. I was part time. My first year in business, I was really excited. I was able to turn my capital, what I had put in. I had already broken even in the first 2 weeks I was in the firm. I was already over 1,000% in profit in the first couple of months. I had all the requirements for senior broker in our company, and I was able to open up my own agency. So I opened up my first office. I would say 9 months in the business. 9 months in, I had opened up my first office, and then we started expansion. We expanded from opening up office in Visalia to me having a partnership and having an office with Daniel in Fresno. From there, us opening up an office with partnership with one of the executives in San Jose, and then opening up our own office in Modesto, and then in Austin, Texas. So at one point, my agency had 5 locations, and now it's different because of COVID, and now we're able to brand our agency in a different way. That's what changed this year. We've had the locations, we've had the agents, we've had the financial professionals. It's just this year we were able to brand ourselves and own the book of business because we reached a certain point in the company where we have more ownership of the company. So that's what happened this year, and I'm really excited. So when I was first getting involved, remember I'm telling you about all these different cities that I was trying to build, and at 19, I was already starting to make good income at 19. I was part time. I was still going to school. So, but I didn't have enough income to buy a car. But I had enough income part time to take care of everything I needed to. But now that at 19, I was starting out in the financial industry, and I was like, you know what? I want to build, and I want to have multiple locations and multiple offices. The first problem I ran into is that, hey, every time I went to go buy a car, they would put in my social security and nothing would pop up because I had just gotten my social security 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, there's nothing there. There's all there is hard inquiries, like 15 hard inquiries from 15 different car dealerships, and nobody can find anything on me. They were like, it's like you're a ghost. I'm like, it's not. I just got my social security, and most people had a hard time understanding that. So I couldn't buy a car. But very soon I figured out that, plus I was 19, so I couldn't rent a car either.
Yeah.
For renting a car, you had to be 25 or 21 and pay a young driver's fee extra, which I was okay with if I was 21. So I figured out I can't rent a car, I can't buy a car, I can't keep bugging my best friend Alec about taking his car every time and going back and forth because he needed his car too, and he was just being super nice and lending me his car. But I was like, okay, what can I do? So I started traveling back and forth in different cities in Greyhounds, and that got risky really quickly because I was in a three-piece suit traveling, and the Greyhound bus would take off at 7 p.m. It was supposed to come departure at 7 p.m., but it wouldn't depart until 11 a.m. 11 p.m. that same night.
Wow.
And I was in a three-piece suit, and everybody else was just looking at me really sketchy. And I did that a couple of times. I was like, man,
Yeah.
I need to find a different solution to go to different cities, meet different clients. So what I found out, because I had moved recently from Visalia, one place in Visalia to a different place, and I was able to rent a U-Haul. So that gave me an idea. I was like, man, I can't rent a car, I can't buy a car, but I could rent a U-Haul. So what I started doing was I started renting a U-Haul on an everyday basis. I would just go to U-Haul and get a pickup truck every single morning, pay $25 to drive it around the city, or whenever I'm taking it out, I'll just leave it at the place I'm going. That way I'm not late. I'm not worried about the Greyhound coming on time or the buses coming on time. And I would go to my clients' homes to talk to them about their finances. I would park my Greyhound in front of their house and their compounds, and they were saying, "Hey, so why do you have a U-Haul every time?" I was like, "Well, I'm just moving a few boxes from one office to a different office. We're moving into a bigger office." And I used to make that story up and tell my clients, and they were just like, "Okay, it's cool, it's fine." But that's what I had to do. I was driving from Visalia to Bakersfield, Bakersfield to Fresno, Fresno to what was it, Chowchilla, all in the same day, just to meet 4 different or 5 different clients. And I did that for over 6 months until I was able to buy my first car. So that was one of the challenges I had. Again, it's a very small thing, buying a car, but it became a really big challenge for me because I was 19 and my social security was so brand new. So that was one of the things that I had to get over. And then every other challenge that any other entrepreneur would get, those are the things I had to do. I didn't have So my entire family is still in India, right? I don't have any family, any cousins, any uncles, any aunts, any friends that I knew of at that time when I first came here that were in the United States. So when you start a business, you probably market it to people that you know and care about, and they always support you. For me, starting a business was a different deal. I didn't have anybody that I knew that I could ask for help or support from. So I had to build my business completely from ground zero, not knowing anybody in the United States. So what I started doing is I started partnering up with people that either wanted to be in the financial industry and I could help them, or they were professionals that just wanted to make an extra income on the side. And that's how I started building my business from very scratch, and one thing led to another. Now we have, the locations we talk about and the success we have and the people that are around us. And this is, I just feel like this is just the beginning. When I'm talking about these things to you and I'm thinking about all the stuff that we've been through, I'm like, I remember that it was Christmas time, my second year in business, and a lot of people don't know this, but I had my apartment, and I was just because I was like, and the apartment was really small, and we had a lot of roommates in that apartment because we were all just trying to build a business. They were all going to school and stuff, and during Christmas times, guess what? Everybody goes home. But I was like, hey, I'm building a business. I can't leave to India. And India is not like right next to you, so I had like stayed at the apartment for Christmas. I ended up going to the office, and I was just by accident, I fell asleep at the office. I woke up the next day on Christmas morning. I was like, man, this actually works. I don't know why I need an apartment. I
Yeah.
could just stay at my office because there was like two suites and the third one was there. And guess what? At a certain point in the career, there was a month where I just stayed at the office and nobody knew about it because I would wake up early in the morning, go to the gym, go take a shower there, get ready in a three-piece suit, come
Yeah.
back, and I was at the office at 7 a.m. So everybody would come. I was like, yeah, I had some pretty early meetings on the East Coast. I had
Yeah.
no meetings going on the East Coast. That was just my way of staying there and everything I had. So I think about those things, about not having a car to not having an apartment place to now where we are. It's just it's a blessing, man. I'm filled with gratitude towards people around us, towards people that lifted us when I needed them the most. Because it's a lot of people say, you're self-made successful people, or you're self-made millionaires. I would never say that. We're definitely like team built. Like, it took a good amount of people around me that were not family to support me. Like, I remember people that helped me when I didn't have enough money for food, and I remember people that helped me when I didn't have enough money for rent because I was in over my head. I had my expenditures in the business were a lot more than what I was making because I was so focused on expanding at that time. So I was taking hits that I wasn't supposed to be taking because I didn't have the business experience that I have now. And when I think back about it, I was like, that was really stupid, but it also was a really good growing experience, and I don't really regret it. I just think that as a financial professional, that was a bad financial decision. If I'm making like $3,000, I was paying like $4,000 in rent and everything else. So that was just something that I was thinking about. Like, yeah, I would have probably kind of controlled myself a little bit more if I knew what I know now. But it was a great learning experience.
Man, there's so many things that I just want to make quick highlights about um, the commitment. The commitment. I'm sure that there are people listening right now who might say to themselves, like, I would have done that. I would have done the same thing. But I think that I think it's 1% of people who think they would have made that decision that you would have made, those decisions along the way, who would have actually taken the same actions that you did. You couldn't buy a car, you couldn't rent a car, so you decided to take the Greyhound for appointments, and then you got tired of that, so you decided that you were going to rent a U-Haul every day. Very few people would have made that decision. I think that the majority of individuals who, if they were put in that position, who didn't have or wouldn't have the drive that you had and have, they would have said, you know what, it's not meant to be. It's not meant. I can't get a car. Uh, I'm not gonna rent a U-Haul. No, man, you overcame those objectives, and I think that's so inspirational that you made those decisions. The fact that you decided to, stay at the office, for a month. You said, like, that's commitment. Those are the little decisions that separate, people who really take off, and the ones who think to themselves, like, who are basically comfortable and complacent. People who think that, like, I'm not gonna make that decision to rent a U-Haul. I'm not gonna stay at the office that late. I'm not gonna do that extra. Not only did you go above and beyond, you went beyond the beyond. You went extra above and beyond, and that's why you're at now where you're at. Man, like, just you're giving me some details right now that I didn't even know before, and that's motivating me. Um, Gosh, so now that your agency has expanded, I see that you've been going to Texas a lot.
Yes.
So, man, tell us a lot about Texas. Tell us why did you choose Texas? What kind of success are you having in Texas? I know. First of all, if anybody who's listening right now, I mean, if you know me or if you've listened in the past, you know that I am a Marine Corps veteran, and I know that you're doing so much out there in Texas right now, helping out United States veterans and active duty. You're helping out a lot of active duty military personnel. So let's go ahead and talk about that.
Absolutely. I love talking about this, and it's kind of ironic too. I'll tell you a funny story about it as well. But what happened is one of my marketing directors, one of my good friends in the business, his childhood best friend used to also be a Marine. He was a Marine Special Ops recon. He was in recon, and then he was in the sniper platoon. So, and he was also a part of a traditional financial industry where he was a Series 7 and Series 66 broker. His name is Paul. He's a very good friend of mine. He's family now, right? And you've met him. You've talked to him before. He came down from Texas once. So what ended up happening is that was the beginning of us expanding and us talking to the United States military. It was just a normal conversation like this. We talked to each other over FaceTime, and what he was trying to do is he was trying to understand how our business model is different than traditional finance. And I told him, I was like, you should come to California and check out all the offices we've already built. So he came down, and he was what he was doing. He was auditing 3 of our offices while just mingling with us because he did a lot of counterintelligence in the military. So he did that, and he was like, "Man, I love what you guys stand for. The message is same across the board. You guys are really trying to help people. I would love to be a part of the company." So he goes back and he opens up an office in Texas, literally in the first week that he's in business, and then boom, we had 4 locations just like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna come out to Texas and support you on your efforts because he's a business partner. He had just started his own office in the first week being in business, and I work with people that are committed, not with people that have potential, and that showed me a lot of commitment. I knew that person was serious, so we started working together, and we started building an organization that was filled with military personnel. And I've had agents in the past, or business partners in the past, who've had their Purple Hearts, and they've served the country, and they're just genuinely good people. That one of the biggest things that I was told on the business side and on the financial side. On the financial side, I found out that the kind of retirement account that most of the military personnel gets, active duty or retired, is it's a good retirement account. And I'm not going to go into details about it, but majority of my friends have lost a lot of money in there, and they just didn't know there were other options. So I just wanted to be the person that showed them other options about it. And when it came to business, a lot of my military friends, they, after getting out of the military, they did a lot of security contracting, which was overseas, that was risking a lot of stuff, and they weren't doing it for the government. They were doing it for private companies, so it's not even fighting for the country. And a lot of their spouses, they talked to me, and I was talking to them, and they were like, "Yeah, Dhruvin, I would love for my husband, I would love for my wife to just stay here in the United States and do something here." But the income that they were making in the military, because they were really high up there, they were E7s and above on the enlisted side, on the officer side. I know a couple of people that are O6s, and they're generals. So when I was thinking about that, I was like, okay. And they said, like, hey, we would love for them to be here, but the only reason they go overseas and they take contracts is because the money that they were making, they're now used to that status quo. And they can't find anything here where they can transfer their military skills to the civilian side, outside of being a cop, outside of being doing private investigation, or outside of doing security. And I was like, well, if I could teach you a new skill set, you teach me everything you know, I'll teach you what I know about this platform and about this business. I think we could work together really well. And that was the agreement that we had in the beginning of how we started building a military team. Now that we have 60% of our organization is military, there's some of them are still active duty. Most of them are actually honorable discharged from the military. So they were, Marines, and they were in the Army, they were in the Air Force. So we started doing all of that, and then one of the most recent sergeants that we recruited, crazy part, he used to be a recruiter for the military. We sat down with him and we recruited him in the business, which is crazy. And because he liked the message that we had, he's like, "Hey, can we do this for all my soldiers?" So we recruited a first sergeant, and we recruited a platoon leader too. And they were like, "Hey, we want to do this for our entire platoon." So they just told us, "Hey, why don't you come down?" They told my business partner Paul, "Why don't you come down to the border and do this for the National Guard and the Border Patrol out here?" Paul's doing that, and Paul calls me. He's like, "Hey, you should come down to Texas. I think there's a lot of people that would need our help, and I can't do this by myself." Sure, sounds good. I fly out to Weslaco. We do stuff for the military there. We get a great response. The people that attended that, there were people from different stations that attended it, and all of them we got requests from, "Hey, could you come to our city and our station and do the same thing for us?" And we're like, "Sure." So now we're doing corporate overviews all over Texas. We're doing it everywhere where there's a base, not obviously on the base, but off the base where the soldiers stay in their hotel rooms. We do it at the conference rooms there, where it's not mandatory for them to come by, but they understand that we're going to add so much value, complimentary, that most of them come, and we have a great response on that. So that's how we've been going out to Texas a lot, because of helping out the military. And obviously, while we're there, we have so much fun that we meet new people, and there's so many other people that got involved in the business. So our Texas expansion team started blowing up. I would say basically because of the military. Our Modesto team started expanding a lot and started exploding because we got into the marketplace where most of my friends here, they own hospitals here in Modesto. So we're working with like a very different, everybody in the organization that I have a very different background. They're not from the very same background, but everybody has a common future, not a common past. And the common future is they either want a better standard of living for their family, or they want to make a better impact in the communities they're from, or spread the awareness of financial literacy to everybody. So that's what I would say goes to us being in different states and us expanding in different states.
Nice. Well, so we talked about your upbringings. We talked about your when you entered into the financial industry. We just finished talking about everything that you've been accomplishing recently. Let's go ahead and end off with what are some short and long-term plans that you have for yourself and your agency that you own?
Well, for the agency, obviously, we're Odyssey division of World Financial Group, and it's a Trans-America company. And one of the biggest goals that I have right now is that my entire goal is expansion. I believe, at the very best of my abilities, I could only help out 4 families in a day, and I'm a numbers guy. That means it's 20 families a week, 80 families, in a whole month, and less than 1,000 families a year. And if I do that for 40 years, I started when I was 19. I just turned 23. If I do that for the next 40 years, I'll be 63, and that would be barely scratching the surface of California, let alone, making an impact on everybody that we're here for. So I decided that I want to focus on expansion. I want to focus on expanding our agency to multiple states. I want to have an office in every single state of the United States, not anymore a brick and mortar office, but now I want to have a very strong presence in every single state of the United States. I want to have 50 CEOs that I've trained. So that's that's one of my personal goals, long term. Short term goals right now is I want to promote more independent brokers that run their own organization that can do exactly what I do. And now we're reaching out to better people, because I'm sure you sit in circles, Angel, that I don't have access to. And I also sit in circles that you don't have access to. But if you were to just open up our circles to each other, now the resources, we can share them. And most people don't understand. I think about on a long-term vision, And I'm sure you've heard about the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, the J.P. Morgan, the Carnegies, and they were in competition with each other. And to me, when I was looking at that, I was like, man, that's crazy. I've read about these people in the history books. I've seen shows about them. I think to myself is what would have happened if those people would have collaborated instead of competing with each other. So I'm thinking, man, what if the Carnegies were building wealth with the Morgans, and if the Morgans were on board with instead of competing with Vanderbilts, they were building it together. They would have made the country, they would have made the world a 100 times better place. So that's my long term. I'm building an organization right now where I can trust people, that we can go into different business models with them. And on a short term goal right now is because our Texas team needs a lot of help. I'm taking a few of my agents and a few of my business partners, and I'm like, hey guys, we're moving to Texas. And there's a lot of different influencing factors on that, why we're moving to Texas. But that's what we're looking into. So in the next month or two, I'm moving from California to Texas, more so Austin, Texas. So that's what I'm excited about. And one of the things I've been really wanting to do, which has fueled everything that I do now, that I didn't think that was possible, and I'll end off with this, is that when I was back in India, I used to volunteer for a small organization called the Blind Man's Association, right? And these were people that were partially or completely blind that were taking college exams, and I used to go volunteer and write their papers for them. So I would describe the question to them, and they would dictate me the answers, and I would write papers for them. And I used to do that a lot. I would say every 2 to 3 months, I would go and do that for 10 days, and it's the one thing that has always been in the back of my mind, that I could do something, because I really believe, like, the world we're in is really beautiful, and a lot of people take it for granted. We have eyes, people take things for granted. So, and I think about people that are blind, and that strikes a chord in my heart. So I wanted to do something for them. So I'm thinking, like, what if I could have a similar organization that's in India, that's the Blind Men's Association, something like here, that I could just be a part of, or I could work towards. Everybody's passionate about a different cause. I'm really passionate about that one. I would like to do something for that. So that's one of my visions. I would like to have an organization similar to that. I like the idea, and I think those people need a lot of help. So that's something that I've been always wanting to do. I haven't really shared it with a lot of people. I just really believe that that would be something that I would be actually passionate about, and it would be beyond just the materialistic success that we ever gain, and it would be more fulfilling for me, because I actually want to be more fulfilled than just successful too.
It's awesome, brother. That's really, really awesome. Well, Dhruvin, it was a pleasure having you on, man. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Can't wait to see you at the top. Can't wait to see you in person again.
Absolutely.
In a few months. But thank you so much, and thank you everyone who listened. Until next time. All right.
Thank you so much for having me over. Have a good one.